Check your encoder settings. 2. 8.333. Apparently I'm live. Okay. Alright, so if I'm live, I'm live. I'm going to have to check that print screen. See what happens then. Save to OneDrive. No, that doesn't work. Right, so hello again. This time I've got my microphone on, because yesterday I didn't. Let me just check myself here. Yes, okay. So it always takes a few seconds to get things going. It's not the easiest. Right, so anyway, yesterday I meant to show you my sketchbook and talk you through some of the pages because just out of interest, and I know this is another impromptu live stream, but it can't be anything otherwise at the moment. It's just while I'm getting used to all of this stuff, and I know that I've done this many times and tested many times. It takes a bit of getting used to though. Anyway, I think sketchbooks are great. I've been doing a lot of work in them lately, and also looking at other people's sketchbooks, particularly, and I was inspired by Danny Gregory. He's an American guy. In fact, I think he may have been born in England and moved to America at a very young age. But anyway, you couldn't detect that from his accent. Pure American. But anyway, he's great. He's a very inspirational character, and he's lived a kind of, you know, he's had difficulties in his life, and he says that his sketchbook helped him through those difficulties, and you know, and I suppose I could well believe it, but sketchbooks mean different things to different people anyway. So or the act of sketching. So I'm just going to show you some of my sketchbooks, and then I'm going to show you what I can draw with, or what you can draw with. So if you bear with me while I turn my large self off and just go to the small stuff. Yeah, so this is my sketchbook, which I started according to some of the dates that I put in, October 2019, and I've been sort of going through a bit of a hiatus in sketching. So this, even though this was started in late 2019, there's not very much in it. Look, I don't think I'm even halfway through this book, but I'll be filling it up as we go along, taking it with me wherever I go, which is what I was supposed to do and what I used to do a lot. So yeah, I always sort of mark in, if I can just move that over there, I always mark in my name and address just in case it gets lost. And I have lost them one before, and it was sent back to me after a couple of years, which was very gratifying. Nice, honest people living around. So I've got an if found, please contact number there. And at the time when I opened this book first, the Soraya show was on in the National Gallery, and I'd be inclined to sort of only have a vague memory of these things if I didn't write things down, I suppose. And I'm just sort of saying how impressed I was. Just wrote a little bit of text in here, and a self-portrait that Soraya did, and I just comment that it's alive. He was such a great painter, and seems like a nice guy too. And I like that sort of, you know, when I discover that artists are absolutely rotten to the core, even though they're brilliant, I just kind of go off them. I don't know about you. In comparison, was it not fond of the regional costume? Yeah, there was a series that he did which wasn't great, but most of the stuff was absolutely brilliant. And I've even got it written down here. Why did I stop sketching for so long? So this kind of break in my sketching practice has been going on for quite a while. So before I begin, what I'd like to ask you to do, just if you're game and you're there, is just to write something in the chat box. It'd be interesting to see how the chat thing works, whether it comes up on my phone or not. But anyway, so that's it. And tell me where you're viewing from. Just simple things like that. Be very interesting. Right, so okay, let's go back to this. All right, so look, here I was in Dublin in 2019 in a cafe called Le Petit Parisien in, I think it's Suffolk Street, or is it Wicklow Street? Can never remember which one is which. So I just did that with the remainder of the ink that was in my brush pen. And I thought it turned out kind of, well, if a little light. There's not very much contrast in it. But I enjoyed doing it, and it passed some time. I was on my own, and various people came and went, but a few people stayed around. These are all hidden by their big hair, these characters. Some drawings for, that was a commission that I did. I did a kind of a series of commissions for different people called A Portrait About You, rather than a portrait of the person. So it was about the person. So I've got a picture of I put in a picture of their children and the various things that this person was interested in, like gardening, and they had been featured in a newspaper at one point. He's got a house in Portugal and things like that. Yeah, so that was a job, and it came to fruition. It was great, well received. What have I got here? Picture of a cow. I'm not sure what that was about at all. Looked like it was supposed to be for the cover of a magazine or something. I've got notes here. Look, this is all the kind of stuff that you can go into a notebook. Notes from a workshop that I was involved in. I actually took the workshop. I didn't hold the workshop, and it was with Una Seeley, who's a great painter. She's an RHA, I think. And she was just describing her method of painting. It's always great to pick stuff up from other artists. You will always learn something, I find. So a whole bunch of things that she mentioned during the workshop. Yeah, it's good advice. I wrote down all the good advice that she had, and promptly failed to implement it, I think. But so now I'm going to be teaching that workshop myself on the 23rd in the Ard Gillen. So if you want to go along, I'm not sure if there are places left in the workshop. So it's en plein air, that's what they call en plein air painting. So painting live in the landscape. And so what have I got here? A friend of mine, he has lots of, lots of general knowledge about wildlife, and he was telling me about the damselflies, and he remarked that year, 2020 actually by this time, only a few drawings in, and it's 2020, that he hadn't seen too many damselflies that year. And I was down in Wicklow about a week afterwards, and it was absolutely full of them by the river. And I didn't know what they looked like, so I just went online and studied them for a bit, and I came up with a print. So that actually became a kind of a giclée print that I put. That was notes for a lino cut print that I did. What I've got here is a memory of my father. This is going to be a painting. It never really went anywhere, but I was just remembering my father sitting at the corner of the front room with a fire there, and he was all studying, and we used to have to sort of knock on the door and ask to come in. We were always asking for bits of paper off him to draw on, and that was the front room window. And just outside there is a 6-lane highway, just about 20 feet from the door, 6-lane highway, the Great West Road, and on stilts and a big concrete plinths above it, another 6 lanes of the M4 motorway. So my mother was none too pleased when she discovered that was being built in the house that she'd only just bought. There's a sketch of a person from back. I've often commented on it before about the men's fashions these days are just absolutely awful. I sound like an old man saying this, but it's kind of true, isn't it? Sweatpants. Sports gear on people that probably never done a whit of sport in their lives. Well, I've got a quote here from Karl Lagerfeld. It's a very famous quote. Sweatpants are a sign of defeat. You lost control of your life, so you bought some sweatpants. How true. I I don't know, some strange looking drawings I did that came out of my head. Some kind of an insect type of thing. I've written Snaggletooth down there. It's got some strange teeth. That was a kind of a drawing. What was that? Yes, here it was. The tsunami of lunacy crashes on the shores of reason. It's a quote from a guy that I follow a bit. He's become a bit irritating actually, but he's correct in a lot of what he says about the anti-science stuff that's coming to the fore these days. Some drawings that I did left-handed, 3 little ink bottles, and I've written down here in my left hand as well, 3 ink bottles with my left hand. Was it? And I can hardly read it because I wrote it in. I wrote it with my left hand. And what? Something else. Oh, and a homemade bamboo pen. Oh, I'll show you that in a minute. More stuff here. Oh, some drawings here. These, I like these drawings. They're quite highly finished, really, for sketches. But I did that November last year at a Zoom meeting. I drew on the bit of paper I had to hand with a biro, and I stuck it into my sketchbook afterwards, which is perfectly valid too. Obviously, he wasn't in the Zoom meeting. It was just this stuff was coming out of my head, but this woman was. And there's some more. This woman was in the... I know it's a bit exaggerated, strangely cartoonish, but she looked a bit like that. And this guy, that's more accurate portrayal of somebody that was on the Zoom meeting, and so is that. He kind of looks like an owl, doesn't he? That isn't, obviously. And I just wrote, you can't come to a Zoom meeting looking like that. So all sorts of stuff goes into these sketchbooks. Oh, there's another one. Look, there's one done in there. Here's another chap. Some more. Yeah, but that's about it, really. I was sitting outside the Metro Cafe when I did that one with a dip pen and some ink that I had. And I drew some of the people that are around me, and because they were moving very, very rapidly a lot. And I like this guy here. And that's just done with that's done with the bamboo pen. I'll show you that in a minute. She was sitting next to me. She was a Dutch woman. That was only the other day now. It was last weekend. That's it. So I'm going to show you my... Let's just change this for a second. I'm going to show you my drawing materials. Because if you go drawing, you know, it's nice to have an idea of what you might bring with you. I'll do this as quickly as I can. So let's have a look. So there's my pencil case. Just a normal old pencil case. I've got too much in it actually, but so let's have a look. Let's take out what I have. So I've got 2 Rotring inks. I've had those since I was 21, and I've hardly used them. That's blue, and I used to use them for work. We used to have to rule up things with Rotring pens, you know, these draftsman pens. I still haven't had occasion to use them, but it's very good ink. It's very good quality ink. Let's have a look. So let's take out. I use this kind of these ink liners, fine liners, a lot. Fine liners and brush pens. Let's have a look. That kind of thing. I use these a lot. So the fine liners, like that one there. That one's sepia toned. That one's was it? Oh, that's sepia toned. That was ochre. Another sepia tone one there. These are kind of brushy. If you take off the top, it's kind of, you can almost like a brush. You can vary the thickness of the line. More dark sepia. They're called pit pens. So let's take them out of there actually, because got lots of them. Mostly black. Some of those sepia and ochre ones, and that one's blue. What else I've got? I've got my ink. That's not your usual ink now. It says Stevens on it, but in fact it's full of this sort of ink that I bought in a French brocante, which is kind of it's from the old days. It must be 40 or 50 years old. Kind of cartridges of crystals, and you just put them in water and you get ink. and it's kind of purpley, kind of violet-y colour. So these brush pens are really useful. I do very much advise you to get some of these to draw in your sketchbook. So they contain water in the handles, like that. If you take off the, ooh, yeah, that one's leaking actually. I'll take off this one. There, like that. You've got a nice brush there. Right. And they're all much like that. Different shapes of brushes. Very, very useful, especially when you're using ink. All right. What was I going to say about them? Oh yeah, they used to be very expensive. This one was very expensive and was a present from when I departed the chairmanship of the Illustrators Guild of Ireland. They got me this little present. And that was expensive at the time, for what it is. And now you can get them for about €2. Get them in Evans, and sometimes Lidl do them, or Aldi, one of the two. I always carry a Tipex pen, for putting in little white dots around if I need to. Ink again. I've got my craft knife for whatever reason. Pencils, soft pencils. That's what I usually carry. It's like 5B, 6B, and upwards. So there. I've got brushes to use with ink. I carry around with me, just like watercolor brushes. Pencils, and then the usual sharpeners and erasers. And that's a blue pencil. That's really good for working out projects before you go to definite lines. Especially if you're going to scan your drawings for a job. Blue pencil doesn't kind of show up as much on the scan. Apart from that, it's just that's just kind of a sepia toned pencil, useful for doing figures, flesh tones, and that's it. Look at that! It's a great big lump of graphite. I often do if I'm going to trace a drawing that I've already done, I use that to go on the back, and then you can sort of transfer the drawing by pressing a nib onto the paper. It transfers the graphite onto the paper below, and that's it. So let's have a look. That's it. That's what I carry around with me to draw, and that's exactly more or less what I said in a video yesterday, but I failed to record the sound because I'm not used to the technology. Kind of technology gets in the way. It's very useful, but it kind of it occupies your mind and takes away from the creative process, I find, a lot of the time. So that's it. That's what I carry around with me. Oh, and one more thing. Actually, I'll just show you this one more thing. I said I'd show you the bamboo pens, didn't I? And I nearly forgot. So in with my dip pen nibs. Now, those are the ordinary nibs. Ordinary nibs. I've got a bunch of nibs for drawing with. This one's my favourite one because the splines. The splines kind of move apart. Let's have a look, see if I can show you there. You can see that, I don't know how close you can see the splines moving apart as you apply pressure. So you can vary the thickness of your line. It's really a calligraphy nib, but it's good for drawing too. And I made, from bamboo from my own garden, a couple of bamboo pens. As cheap, actually cheaper than chips. So the thing to do, this one's got a short nib, so that's kind of you wouldn't be able to vary the line very much. But that one's got a very long lead up to that nib. So basically, just like the metal nib that I showed you, the splines move apart as you apply pressure. See, so you can sort of vary the width of the line, and they actually work pretty well. I was surprised when I made, because I've never made them before. Made those the other day. There you go, just bamboo from the garden. And everyone wants to get rid of bamboo, don't they? They're probably happy if you just cut down their bamboo. It just grows everywhere. Right. Did I do that? There I am. Okay, that's it. I just wanted to explain my sketchbook and the stuff that I use to make marks. That's it. And you can sort of do all sorts of things. You can write lists. You can do lettering. You can draw pictures. They don't have to be great. They just have to be done. Draw what you see around you. Take it with you. And if you draw the places that you visit, you'll remember them much more than you would if you just take 150 photographs with your phone. I guarantee it. It'll be more fun. Looking back on them is more of a pleasure. I will skip over the photographs that I take on holiday. Should really be drawing. Okay, that's it. That's me. I don't know whether anyone actually made a comment. If you did, I didn't see it, but you can comment on the video wherever you see it. It's going on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. And don't forget, I'm doing teen art camps. No, sorry, art camps for teenagers, all based around drawing and drawing your own stories. And I'm still looking for people to join. They're on the Monday the 26th, for the 5 days, and also the 9th of August onwards for the week. Okay, so very creative and hands-on sort of teen camp, all done on Zoom, so it's all online. Okay, so you can see that on www.McSherryStudio.com. All right, all the best. Have a lovely weekend. It's the weekend for me anyway.